1 minute to the deadline. Seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Deadline.
Hello, Diplomacy fans, and welcome to DBN's coverage of the European Diplomacy Championships, also known as Euro DipCon. I am Brandon Fogel, one of the co-founders of the Diplomacy Broadcast Network. Joining me on the broadcast are Johnny Gillum. Johnny, welcome.
Howdy.
And Adam Silverman. Adam, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, the Euro DipCon is a tournament that has some history. It goes back to 1993, and I believe it's been played every year, including online during the virtual era. Actually, you know what? I'm going to look at the list here really quickly. That is true. There is a champion listed every year going back to 1993. So that would make this the 32nd edition of European DipCon, or the European Diplomacy Championship. This one took place in Switzerland. Sion is the name of the, I'm probably not pronouncing that right. If either of you know how to pronounce that correctly. All right, no one knows better than me.
Where is it?
In Switzerland. Sion.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's French.
Depends.
It sounds like it would
Sion.
Could
be
Sion, maybe. Sion, maybe.
I mean, I think that's it.
Sion.
It doesn't sound German,
Depends.
so it sounds, or Italian, so it sounds French. So, so what's the right way to say it if it's French?
Maybe Sion.
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 All right.
Maybe. I don't know.
Sion, Switzerland. The tournament director is Christophe Bourget, who is has a longtime face-to-face player, really good guy. I met him in Marseille in 2019 at the World DipCon there, yeah, he's a really good guy. Very good tournament director as well. And this one was a sizable tournament. They had 4 boards per round for 4 rounds in total, and they had a top board as well. And they had contestants from all around the world, lots of Europeans, obviously, but some North Americans, and I think they had some from Asia Pacific as well. We unfortunately are not able to cover the entire tournament because the moves were not recorded in a way that we can cover. But we do have the moves from the top board, the championship board. So the top 7 players after 3 rounds made it to a final board, which was played alongside a bunch of other 3 other games that were played by the remaining contestants for standings, or classification, as the French like to say. Before we dive in here and see who made the top board and check out some moves, Adam, I know you've played in Europe before. You've never played in Europe? Ah, wow. Johnny, have you ever gone to play in Europe yet? All right. I have. Just the one time I went to Marseille, and it was fun and fascinating. It was C Diplo, which I had never played before. I don't think I've played it since either. But the C Diplo format is 7 years. The game is forced draw after 7 years if it hasn't drawn before then. And so the games are shorter than we're used to in North America and in also in Australia. And that creates a different style of play. And so I had to do a little bit of adjusting to get used to that. I would have thought that I was prepared for it, because in Chicago we like to play bar games, which have very fast timing and usually only go 6 or 7 years. But I actually found I had a little bit of trouble. The way that people played differently at the beginning of the game surprised me. And so it definitely requires a different style of or a different mindset going into it. The scoring system they used is not actually C Diplo. It's an adjustment called C Diplo Namur, which has some different numbers. But I think the overall thought is the same, that there should be a big a bonus for topping the board, and then the rest of the scores sort of go down from there. All right. Well, so I can't ask you guys to comment on what it's like to play in Europe, but I can ask you to comment on the players who made the top board, because they are familiar to us. Certainly, if not in reputation, in name. And here they are. Here are the players who made the top board for the European Diplomacy Championship. And these the power selection was determined randomly. So despite this being, in a French-speaking area of the world, they did not use the Paris method for power selection. And in fact, the Paris method isn't very popular in France. So, it became popular over here. It was introduced by the French, and it became popular over here, and they've sort of left it behind. In Austria, we have a German, Philipp Weissert. I don't know where in Germany he lives. It would be nice to find out. In England, we have former world champion Toby Harris coming to us from Worcester. And in France, we have an American who made this top board, Karthik Kanath, DBN's own Karthik Kanath, someone we're all very familiar with. And Karthik has been on fire recently, playing really well and winning. He is Los Angeles based, so we have California here. In Germany, we have, excuse me, Davide Cleopatra, who's an Italian. In Italy, we have Steve Personeni, who I believe is French, even though the name looks Italian. In Russia, we have Cyril Savant, who is French, even though he's based out of Augsburg, and he is a multiple-time world champion, so very well-known name on the circuit. In Turkey, we have Jan Kluey, who is a name I recognize it, but I don't know much about him. Adam, is the name?
I believe Jan also may be a world champion, and if not, he's probably won Euro DipCons. He sort of disappeared for a while. He had actually traveled to a lot of events in the United States in the first decade or so of the 21st century. I've played with him many times in that period. He's a phenomenal player, a great diplomat, very good tactically. Really, some of what some people at this point would call the old school style of play that was common during that time, but really just very good at it, very methodical, and really great board sense. So he's one to watch. And of course, the rest of this board is all really difficult. We have multiple world champions. Cyril is routinely in the conversation at every tournament he plays in. Toby has won a world championship. Philipp Weissart used to play a lot, also traveled to the States a couple of times, I believe, to play in tournaments. Very strong players.
All right, doing a quick perusal of the International Prize List of Diplomacy page on Wikipedia finds that Cyril has won 3 world championships, most recently in World DipCons, I should say. We should be more careful about this. Most recently in 2013, and also 2 Euro DipCons. And Jan Kluey has won a World DipCon. That is back in 2004. And also won a Euro DipCon, and that is back in 2003. It looks like Cyril's last Euro DipCon win was 2015. His first was in 1997. Toby Harris won Worlds in Milan in 2015 and won Euro DipCon in 1998 in Great Britain. So quite a distinguished board we have here. Do you guys, Johnny, let's turn this to you. Do you want to offer any thoughts based on what you know of these players? Obviously, there's going to be some players here that whose play styles you're not familiar with.
I do think the East will be an interesting thing to watch, with Steve, Cyril, and Jan all being French players, French-speaking players. There probably will be a lot of negotiations happening in French in the East, and what that means for the German player in Austria. It's kind of confusing, but with Philipp could be interesting, could come into play, might not. It looks like Cyril also lives in Germany, so maybe they're all just kind of polyglot heroes. And then in the West, I wonder how Karthik and Davide's playstyles will mesh or fail to mesh. Those are the only 2 players here that I really know their playstyles well, and I would not be surprised to see Karthik and Davide at war and Toby get to choose. But we'll see.
So Karthik, Karthik's an interesting one here because he won Dixie earlier this year, and he traveled to Australia, I believe, for the Cane Toad Classic. Is that right?
I think so.
No, no, he doesn't appear on there. So actually the records aren't so great. I know he went to Australia earlier this year for a tournament. It might have been the Hung Parliament Handicap.
They've all got weird names. Who's to say?
Yeah, they do. All right. In any case, but so I don't know if Karthik has played in Europe before, but his adjustment to the style of play there will be one to watch. Obviously, he's done it well enough to get onto the top board. All right. What do you guys say? Unless you have any other thoughts you want to add here?
All right. I think it would be interesting, particularly one of the things around the C Diplo system is it tends to play, because of the shortened game, it tends to play very balance of power-ish early in the game. So players whose style is more tempo oriented tend to struggle in this type of game, because if you get off to a fast start, you're going to really not have that alliance you thought you had for very long. So I'm curious to see, particularly for I probably Karthik more than others, but maybe others on this who are not used to playing C Diplo, how they adjust to that style, because it can be a real rude awakening if you try to play it like a longer game.
All right, let's dive in. This is top board. We got we can do our longer format here, which means one person will do play-by-play for a turn, and the other will give sort of analysis each turn. Or I'm sorry, you know what? Why don't we do East-West? That's how we've done it before with the marquee games. So to start off with, then Johnny, why don't you take the West, and Adam, you take the East. And so you each will get time to talk about moves and give some analysis each turn. Without further ado, here are the orders for the European Diplomacy Championships top board, spring 1901. And Johnny, let's start with you in the West. What do you see? What's interesting?
Yeah, we do have some interesting moves here. We see Munich and Marseille bouncing in Burgundy, which you don't see every day. In my opinion, this is really good for France and not very good for Germany. If I'm playing France and Germany seems sketchy about Burgundy, I'll often say, hey, we could bounce there if you want. And sometimes Germany says yes, and I'm thrilled. If I'm Germany, I will never bounce with you in Burgundy. France can go to Burgundy if it wants. I don't care, but I'm going to Ruhr. So already this looks good for Karthik. Reason being that Marseille gets to stay in Marseille and move into Spain. While having Burgundy open, which is great. And if you want, you can also support into Burgundy and just waste Germany's move. Meanwhile, Germany doesn't go to Ruhr, doesn't have any say on Belgium. It's trickier to get Holland. So this is just really not very good for Germany, in my opinion. From here, Karthik can convoy into Portugal, do the Lisbon leapfrog. He can do all kinds of things. Karthik has a world of options, and it looks like a fairly friendly England and Toby, who just opened normally. So it's great for Karthik.
How about in the East, Adam?
Yeah, I'll just add it's good for Toby too, who gets a free convoy or move to Belgium.
Yeah, since Karthik opened to Gascony, that's right. Often you see this with Paris or Picardy, but yeah.
In the East, we see Austria walking into Galicia, and Russia and Turkey bouncing in the Black Sea, while Turkey moves Smyrna to arms. So this looks like perhaps a coordinated effort by AT to get a little bit of a jump on Russia, or if not coordinated, at least it looks like they do have a little bit of an advantage here. Elsewhere, Italy sets up to potentially convoy Apulia into Tunis while holding in Venice more of a traditional old school Italian way, though we'll see if they end up going into Trieste or not.
You know, as Russia in the game of diplomacy in spring of 1901, you have a couple really important diplomatic tasks to accomplish. Cyril was not able to accomplish either one of those. Check out Galicia and try to keep Turkey from opening to Armenia. Neither of those worked well for Cyril. But, Cyril's a good player, so it's not all is not lost in spring of 1901. Fall of 1901 orders. Here we are.
Yeah.
And Adam, let's stay with you in the East. Tell us what you see.
Yeah, this is really unusual, actually, and it's great to see this on a board with such high level players, where we have the Turks and actually even Serbia, Austria getting a double support into Romania and just sliding into Greece unsupported. So a 3-build Austria 1901, something that is fairly uncommon, not unheard of, but certainly not something that's very common. Cyril, in fact, doesn't even make a play for Romania, instead opting to both go to the Black Sea and cover Sev in case he's allowed in with Jan trying to slide into Sev. But in fact, the Black Sea does balance, and Moscow covers Warsaw. Sweden, unsurprisingly, is uncontested, so Cyril will still build in spite of this. Actually, I take back what I said about the 3-build Austria. I missed the Venice to Trieste, which makes sense in this context, that Italy would do this and take 2 builds and give the other 2 to Austria getting the others.
Adam, does this surprise you that Turkey has opened in a way that seems very good for an AI alliance, without netting him particularly much as at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, it is a big risk, right? Especially since the Galicia is that forward army that you would want to be present, if you're Turkey. So it's not your favorite thing to do. It's not your favorite final position. And also you're sitting now with 3 Austrian units on Bulgaria, and Austria could just as easily right now say, okay, I'm going to go back and work with Russia. I'm in Romania. I don't need to push further into Sev in Ukraine. I can go just now dig Turkey out of the corner with Italy. So yeah, I think it is a big risk that Jan is taking here.
Yeah, it's funny. If you're Russia, like Austria taking Romania here from Galicia is probably what you want to see, actually. Like if you want to try to make an alliance play here.
It's certainly better than seeing Bulgaria advance to Romania, right? It isn't seeing it go the other way. That's more what I think would have been a good move, a stronger move for Jan if he's trying to, hoping to get a longer term alliance going. This could be one and done. We'll see.
All right, Italy's builds will be revealing and interesting. Look forward to seeing about that. Johnny, tell us what happens over in the West.
Yeah, well, Davide has proven my point here, so thanks for that. Or Toby, I suppose. This is why you want to be in Ruhr in the spring, because even if you want to cover Munich in the fall because Burgundy got in, and you're worried he's going to go for Munich, if you have the tactical option of supporting Kiel to Holland, England is much less likely to bounce you out of Holland because it might be a completely wasted turn, and they're much more likely to just go for Belgium, right? And you don't, if you telegraph your moves like this, you're so much more likely to get an England who goes, oh, I can guarantee 100% that Germany doesn't have more than 1 build here. Great, love it. And that's exactly what England does.
That's interesting. The suggestion you're making here is that creating tactical uncertainty actually is powerful. Is a powerful deterrent because Toby maybe only is going to do this if it's guaranteed to have an effect. So that's an interesting point. It is interesting that Toby passes up a build, though. I mean, you might think that Toby would rather have the build than to deny Davide one. What do you make of that calculus?
This is interesting. A lot of English players like to do this sometimes. I've done this. Actually, Adam and I did this one time as an EF. It can work. And I can definitely see in the CWO game where you really just need growth by 07, you just want to cripple your enemy right off the bat, 01, as fast as you can. I do think this gives a lot to France. Honestly, I think this is England giving France a lot of leeway, and you're really just banking on your diplomatic and tactical ability later in the game to get one over on France as England, which is hard to do. So on the one hand, you really cripple your enemy quick, which is really good. On the other hand, you really got to be watching your ally. So it just depends on the game, but it can be good. It can work.
And I think the time you and I did that, I think you were France and you went to Western Med and forwent one of the Iberian builds in order to play for tempo, and we each went one build, and I think that was part of it too. And I think this was exactly my concern, is that it was you were going to get off to too strong a start if I did this. I think these are incredible moves for a top board. This is what we don't, the aggressiveness in 1901 by both in the East and the West is something I see so rarely on top boards. People usually play their cards so close and want to avoid annoying anybody early on in the board. And to see these kinds of aggressive moves is very exciting. And I don't know how it will play out and whether these are the right things to do or not. But it is really interesting because most top boards, people play it close. People take the builds for themselves. They're not out to deny somebody something because that's somebody who they may need to work with later. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes.
Yeah, I think especially in the DBN world, strategic flexibility is something that's become highly valued. And, Toby has definitely closed off strategic option. And I wonder too, we'll move on here, but it's fun to talk about. You've got these, three sort of acknowledged heavyweights, Toby, Cyril, and Jan, although, it's possible that their glory days were or could be considered behind them, right? So, there's Davide and Steve and Philip. I've seen their names on being successful in European events regularly. So they're and Steve has participated in a DBN Invitational. So they're all good. But I wonder too, like how much people's reputations affect how they're approaching this 1901. Like, is Toby underestimating Davide or Karthik and focusing, or similarly with Jan towards Philip and Steve? I don't know, but it's a possibility out there. All right, let's move on and check out some builds here. Winter 1901. I talked about Steve's builds being interesting and potentially revealing. Anyone else's you want to highlight before we show them?
I mean, Germany has a choice, right? They've got an interesting decision to make with only one build, right? Is it going to be an army or a fleet? And if it's an army, is it? I mean, if it's an army, it's probably in Munich. But is it? Do you put an army down or you put a fleet down? I think that's. I'm interested to see what Davide decides here.
And Karthik too, right? Karthik.
I think you do the normal thing and build Fleet Brest Army Paris here, but maybe he decides to put the fleet in Marseille. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be revealing. I think if Fleet Marseille, then Germany is definitely not happy. Brest is more ambiguous. All right, here are the builds for Winter 1901. And
yeah,
all right, lots of interesting stuff here. I is immediately drawn to Venice, which attempted to have a fleet. Now these were all written orders and then later transcribed into Backstabber by Christoph, the tournament director. And so it's possible that this wasn't that this was an error of transcription, although I kind of doubt it. The Backstabber interface is designed so that it will choose which builds are legal and not when too many are written down. It's interesting to know how that was done in face-to-face.
My assumption would be that it goes by the first ones written. So Steve intentionally did this, actually, I think, to show Philip it's all fleets, baby. There's no armies here. More fleets. No, really. I mean, I think it's intentional because he took that extra center that might not have been agreed, and Steve saying like, "I'm with you. Don't worry. No worries. I'm just fleets. I got no armies." I think it's kind of clever, actually.
That's really funny. All right. So the other big news here was, well, in any case, it's all fleets, no armies. So message sent for sure. And that's got to make Austria happy. Karthik does do the Army Paris, but does Fleet Marseille, and so that's got to make Toby happy, and Davide not so much. Davide, for his part, chooses Army Munich, so that's certainly more conservative than the fleet would have been. And elsewhere, we have, I think, relatively straightforward builds. Toby clearly was anti-German, and Fleet Eddie is the most anti-German that will not irritate France or scare France. Cyril puts down that Army Moscow, which with the Southern adventure really has to. And similarly with Jan, the fleet, and obviously Philip had no choice. All right, let's move forward here into spring of 1902. Here are the orders, and let's go back to the West, Johnny, for the first read. Tell us what you see.
Sure. So we see North attempting to convoy York into Holland, which does not succeed. Germany actually takes Holland here. And I think you probably could have foreseen that that Holland was going to be taken here with support by Germany. Maybe it depends on what the negotiations were, but I might have preferred to convoy into Belgium, maybe with support of France if I was England here, having gone out on a limb and convoyed to Holland in the spring of 01. I don't know. But he also gets into Skagerrak, so there's going to be play on Denmark. and he can cover Norway with Norwegian, so all's well. Karthik's just positioning, goes into Mao, goes into Spain South Coast, goes into Gascony and Picardy. Karthik loves his position. He's never going to get eliminated. He's never going down. He's got options for growth in 3 directions. Everybody else is fighting each other. This is fantastic for Karthik as an early French position.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I think that's it. Right?
And Italy's not really coming, which is more Adam's theater, but that's good news too.
I'm with you on the convoy to Belgium. It would guarantee Toby a build this year. You know, if not Holland, then Belgium. And yeah, it's kind of what he needs to be doing right now. All right, over to the east, Mr. Silverman.
Sure. It looks to me like Philip is sort of equivocating here, right? He's really not making any moves that are remotely aggressive. He's just trying to get people away a little bit. He, pushes Italy up into Tyrolia. He doesn't use Greece to support the Italian into the Aegean, which is interesting, right? And then Jan supports himself into the Black Sea. Okay. Cyril just makes defensive moves here. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the fall. And does Philip join in with Italy here, or just sort of wait a turn or two to see how things develop? And that's the sort of play I'm used to on top boards and see Diplo in particular, rather than trying to be aggressive and get out front too quickly.
All right, I have 2 things I want to ask you about. One is Trieste to Tyrolia. What do you make of that?
Well, I think in part it's Austria trying to get Italy out of the way. I think second, it's a good place for Italy to be, to have influence into Germany, whether that is to get the opportunity to be put in Munich, or possibly to be helping make sure that France doesn't get off to too strong a start, and being able to have a unit that's there supporting Davide there.
All right, and then
more likely the latter, actually.
The second question I have is about Romania here, which supports Serbia to hold rather than supporting Budapest into Galicia or Armenia into Sevastopol.
Oh, absolutely. I think that Philip is just playing to wait and see how things develop. I think this is, this goes to, again, what I'm more used to seeing on a top board, where folks want to be a little bit cagey and don't want to necessarily show their cards for where they're going, leave themselves as many options as possible while the people around them are fighting, right? Because right now, Cyril and Jan are not on the same page, and it's going to be pretty hard for them to get there very quickly based on where the position is. It's not impossible, but it's not easy. So Philip is still going to be in the driver's seat another turn from now. Johnny, what do you think?
I agree. If I'm Philip, honestly, I'm really not a fan of Fleet Aegean here, because we're playing until 1907, right?
Yep.
Does Italy really top this board by spending 3 more game years taking Smyrna? I'm not sure, right? And this is kind of a good setup for IT anyway. Where Italy has the fleets to go into France, and Turkey's focused towards Russia. So I'm a little bit nervous here as Philip, and I'm probably really trying to make a friend. And I don't know that he did that in the last turn. So I kind of agree with that analysis. On the other hand, they could also just convoy Tunis straight into Bulgaria. That might work. And that's a nice little bit of tempo for Steve. But again, if I'm Austria, I don't really want an Italian army in Bulgaria. So I don't know.
All right, let's find out. Fall of 1902.
That works.
Let's start in the east.
That definitely worked.
Let's start in the east.
There you go. Or you could convoy right into Smyrna, right? And that's a guess you take, and there it is. So Steve makes a accurate guess and gets straight into Smyrna with his army, and that's pretty devastating for Jan to have that Italian army there, because that's going to be dancing around for a while. And now Philip makes his move supporting Budapest into Gal. Interesting that he chooses to move Budapest rather than Vienna. The Italians do take Munich, actually, with Carthag's support, so that's really fascinating. I'm not sure how I feel about the Tyranian Seed in Naples move. That's obviously a olive branch to Karthik, though I'm not sure I really like it, to be honest, but I get it.
And over to the west, Johnny.
Sure. So Toby does get into Belgium here, which is what we were saying should have happened. Probably should have happened in the spring, but this is okay too. The problem with this is, Karthik easily could have just bounced you out and gone up to Liverpool. So Toby's, just like we were saying in the beginning, Toby's putting a lot of faith into Karthik here. But so far, Karthik's repaying him. The only two moves Karthik makes in this turn are supporting other people into centers. The rest of his units just hold. So that's pretty solid diplomacy from Karthik. I like those kinds of turns. Toby tries to support. Go ahead.
Any concern that it's too clever by half for Karthik? Does he need to be making a move right now?
No, I don't think so. I think this is fine. His position's great. Picardy, Burgundy, Gascony, Mouse, Spain. That's like the best possible 5-center French position. And the 5-center French position is so good. He'll get Belgium later. He's putting Italy into Munich. Italy's not going to hold Munich. It's almost impossible that Italy holds Munich. So Munich's years later, probably. The diplomacy is all coming up you. You're showing your allies love. You're getting Italy to go Tyrrhenian to Naples. That's no problem. Italy's probably going to build Army Venice, put it up in Tyrolia. You're not even there. Karthik's got no worries. He's totally fine. And you've got Toby supporting Cyril into Denmark, which is also really big here, right? Russia is not going to try to support Germany here. Russia is going to try to go into Silesia and try to take Denmark and try to be a part of the takedown of Germany. So yeah, it's looking great for Karthik.
I think Cyril was really hoping, really expected that he would get into Denmark here. I think that's why Warsaw goes to Silesia to open up Warsaw for a build. So that was very optimistic. I guess the thought was that Kiel would support Munich to hold instead.
Exactly.
Okay. So Steve is the one sort of with interesting build options here. You made a case for Army Venice. What would his second build be, Johnny?
Could be a wave. Could wave it.
Yeah, it depends. If I'm Steve, I really do think about Fleet Rome and going and I mean, I've already got Smyrna, so I might go full west here and see if I can get Toby to flip, because I can use Munich to tap Burgundy and stuff like that too. I don't know that Steve does that, but
Adam, you talked at the beginning of the game about worries about jumping out to a lead. So the early leader syndrome might be especially acute in the C Diplo sphere where balance of power is highly prized. Is that a danger for Steve right here?
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why waving would make sense. He's sitting in a position where he's got a fleet in Naples. If he puts 2 units down, it looks like he just built 3, which he obviously didn't do. But it even makes the position look stronger than it actually is. I think you build Venice and wave the other. But we'll see what he does. But there's a case to build another unit, of course. There's always a case to use a build. But I would be really scared about how that looks.
All right. And Toby Harris, Army, Fleet?
You know, in these shorter, I mean, everybody likes to build armies as England. In these shorter games, I think a fleet might serve him better. So I would probably be building Fleet Eddie here, but there's certainly an argument for other builds.
Fleet Eddie does open up the possibility of Karthik slipping in, and
maybe you build an army just as you're right. Maybe you just build an army for protection on the land. I don't know.
All right, let's find out. And the answer is Army London.
Yep.
Yeah. And we do have a wave from Steve. So Army Venice and a wave. So some canny, cagey play here. Jan, has to pick the poison, and the one he picks is Bulgaria, which makes sense. It's the most vulnerable of the 3 units. All right, let's keep going here into spring of 1903, and we'll start back in the West again. And Johnny, tell us what you see.
Sure. So this looks like an arrange bounce to me on the North Atlantic. Which makes perfect sense, just making sure that Karthik doesn't have that nice easy stab. It does tie down Karthik's units. It makes it impossible for Karthik to go attack the board leader and Steve. So that's kind of interesting, but I don't think it's wrong necessarily. Meanwhile, they're advancing the units. Karthik's up into Ruhr. He's in Burgundy. Toby, okay, gets repaid for playing nice with Cyril earlier. And now Cyril is supporting Toby into Denmark. So that's great for England. England needed that here. So that's good. Italy does lose Munich, of course. Silesia slips into Berlin and kind of moving towards the east here. Not good for Davide. Davide is not super long for this world.
No, I mean, I think this was definitely one of those games where everybody just rushed the middle of the board, and I think Davide didn't really have a lot of chance. I think it was just the early negotiations; he didn't get what he needed, and so this is just not a tenable position at this point in time. Also, really interesting in the eastern part of the board is Austria moving to retake Trieste. I think this is a balancing play that. Really, Steve can't say no. I mean, he just doesn't have a leg to stand on, right? So he's going to say grimace and take it and say, okay. Yep. I mean, I waved and like it's your dot. Gotta give it back to you at this point. The downside though is it's not just the wave, because now that he's lost Munich, he could be down one if he can't find a center to get to in the fall. So be interested to see, does Austria put him into Bulgaria or something along those lines so that he doesn't have a pull.
Austria is being static here and not moving to Bulgaria is interesting. Is there potential question for you about whether Austria and Italy really are in an alliance right now?
Well, again, sorry, Johnny, go ahead.
No, you take it. It's the East.
I think it's I don't think it's an issue of are they fighting so much. I think the point is, are they an alliance? What is an alliance in a game like this, on a top board like this, right? And I think that the alliances, when they have common goals, they're working together. But it may not be to Austria's advantage to see Turkey drop like a sack of bricks, because the only thing that Austria gets out of it is Bulgaria. So if he sits there for a while, take Bulgaria next year, or maybe in 1905 when he's ready to do that.
Yeah, but it's also the spring turn. I do think that Austria takes it here, builds to, has the whole Balkan area totally locked up. I think you do that as Austria here most of the time. But there's no reason to take it in the spring. Leave your options open. I don't know. Maybe Turkey throws you a bone. You never know.
All right. Well, tactically, the situation here is quite interesting. Italy has 2 on Vienna, and so does Austria. Although Austria has Romania, to potentially protect, and then also maybe Bulgaria to go after, and then there's Greece, which is vulnerable to an Italian attack as well. It's a very interesting situation here. And the only thing that's clear is that Turkey is, Constantinople is at least safe for 1 year, for one turn. Let's talk about Karthik's situation. He played very patiently in 1902 and is in position now to do something. What would you guys like to see Karthik do here with this position? Take Belgium or do something else?
Interesting question. I think Karthik's okay to hold on here. I don't think Karthik has to do anything. I don't think he needs to build this turn. I think he is... well, maybe what you do is you put Toby into Holland and take Belgium behind. If you think you can get
absolutely.
that.
That's absolutely what you do here. You tap Kiel.
Well, yeah, it kind of depends on what Cyril is doing, right? In Berlin, that's kind of the wild card. But yeah, probably that's what you do.
I think you tap Kiel, you advance Belgium to Holland, and you follow in to Belgium. I don't see a lot of reason why you wouldn't do that, right? It's makes sense for both sides. Toby already has a build in hand from Denmark.
Although Denmark isn't safe unless Cyril is willing to support him from Sweden. So it's quite a dynamic moment for this game, especially knowing that they're more than a third through the game at this point. Like after this, they're almost at the halfway point. So it's it requires an adjustment for us, I think, too. I think at this point we're sort of like just kind of waking up into the game, and now it's already the mid game. All right, fall of 1903. Players, being put under pressure to make some big decisions, and wow, lots of activity. Tell us about. Let's start with the East. Nice. Because it's simpler. Yeah, cool. We'll give Adam a chance to. Give Johnny a chance to work through what the hell happened in the West. And Adam, tell us about the East.
Sure, Philip makes his move, but it's not to Bulgaria here. It's to Venice, right? This is really a cool move, right? Because there is just nothing there in Italy, right? So he's going to get a free walk into Rome next year. That's just a really nice move. The only thing that could have made it better is if he didn't also lose Romania, but I have a feeling he expected to. Um, I think. I mean, it was an interesting choice to move Galicia to Vienna, which had he cleanly walked into Trieste and Venice and not lost Romania, he would have been covering up one of his build sites. So it's interesting to see that he made that choice, because had he just supported Romania to hold here, he'd be building too. But again, maybe he's fine with Cyril taking Romania. I'm not sure I would be with him putting an army in like that, but it's hard to say. But this is a good position for him. It's really devastating for Steve, unfortunately. What else is there to say? I don't think there's a lot else to say. I think Jan's moves make a lot of sense for him to try to reposition himself so that he can stay in this game. I mean, so that seems to be logical for him to get out of the Black Sea. But it's going to bring Cyril back into this game, because Cyril's getting that build, and then potentially can move to the Black Sea himself.
Yeah, the question I have, the moves that stand out to me that are sort of subtle but interesting, is the fact that Romania and Greece could have combined on an attack on Bulgaria and did not. And that makes me wonder if this isn't actually an ART forming all of a sudden in the fall of 1903.
I don't see why Philip would want something like that. That doesn't make any sense. I wonder if Philip was expecting Jan to continue to keep pressure on Cyril, and that just didn't happen. That's the only explanation I can think of here. I really don't know why else why else he would be working with, why else he wouldn't be at least taking a shot at Bulgaria here.
The only argument I could think of is that Philip thought that he needed help against Italy. And actually Turkey's the only one who could conceivably help against Italy.
Yeah.
But the problem with Russia as an ally for Austria is that they can only build armies, right? And those armies really don't have a whole lot of place to go other than, towards him. All right. We've given, sorry, do you have a further comment, Adam?
No. I was going to say is maybe Johnny is ready to talk about the West.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I had more to say about the East, but I'll shut up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, say it.
Well, so I wanted to say the same thing, which is that this doesn't make any sense to me from Austria. There's two good ways to play this. One of them is Galicia support holds Romania, and then Rum supports Black to Sev or something, and you're trying to stab Italy and stay on with Turkey. That's one way. Then you don't lose Romania. You have two build sites open for your two builds. And the other way to do it is Greece supports Rum to Bull, and you give Russia Rum, and you probably ask them to go in from Sev so they can build Fleet Sev and go take the Black Sea. And then you have an ally in Russia. And both of those make total sense. And he's chosen option 3, and I don't think that makes any sense. And I don't see this working out for Austria. Okay, now I'm done. Now I'll talk about the West.
Yeah.
The West is not as interesting as the East, I don't think. They did it the way we said, where they tap Kiel and Karthik takes Belgium behind and Toby takes Holland. The only difference is that they had Denmark support Ruhr into Kiel with the tap, which makes total sense. Of course they did. And so that's 2 up for Karthik, 1 up, 1 down. So 2 up, 1 down for Toby. So Toby builds 1, Karthik builds 2. Karthik's still kind of in the lead in this alliance. I think Toby really needs to be thinking about how he's going to get the top over Karthik on this board, especially when Italy's getting stabbed now and Italy's going down and is never going to pressure Karthik from the other side. Yep. And Karthik never went into the med. I'm nervous. It's a good position for England, so it's okay, right? You got stuff you can work with, but I'm getting nervous. And you don't have a unit in Norway, so you could have gotten stabbed for Norway here pretty easily. So you're kind of trusting this Russia who's supporting Italy. I don't know.
And Russia who's getting a build as well.
I don't think that Toby's going to have to worry about
2 belts.
Cyril right now. Just be at least right now, because again, thinking about balance of this game, if Russia just jumps on England in the north, that's the last really. That's the last thing holding back Karthik, right? At this point, at this point.
Yep.
So I don't, and it's not just about tactically holding him back, but it's also about Toby saying, "Well, you took one off me in the north. You know, I'm going to just throw everything at you and let Karthik get what he wants." So I think that right now they're okay. In the longer part of the game, yeah, Cyril might make a play in 1907, 1908 time frame, or 1906, 1907 time frame.
I'm not so sure, because Cyril has 2 builds here, right? One of them has to go in St. Petersburg. It's the only place he can put it.
Yep.
And if the EF continues, Sweden and St. Petersburg are the next 2 dots for England. Right? I mean, realistically, England isn't showing. I think that's what England does here most of the time. And so maybe if you're Cyril, it's a forward defense from here, right? And you try to work with Karthik. I don't know.
Well, let's push forward and find out. I will add, I do think it had to be a part of Toby's plan that that Italy would need containing from France, that France would have something to do in the south. And so seeing that that's not going to happen, that has to be a problem for Toby. Not insurmountable, but that plan now has to change. All right, winter 1903. We do have 2 builds from Karthik. It's a big moment for Karthik. It could betray some strategic direction with these builds. What do you build if you're Karthik? Johnny, start with you.
There's 2 different ways to play it. You could build a fleet in Marseille, and you could go save Italy. That's probably what you do in a time unlimited game. What do you do in a game that lasts until 07? I just put down Fleet Brest, or even 2 fleets. I don't know. I haven't played a lot of these games. I don't have an instinct for them yet. But
Adam, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go the other tack again and say Army Paris wave the other one.
Yeah. That's legit.
So
that's
neither of you would want to go try to say secure Tunis or anything like that?
Not yet.
In a time unlimited game, that's probably what I'm looking at right now. But Tunis is only 1 dot, and you might need more than that in this game. You might need the English centers. So I don't know.
Okay, so the worry about a fleet is that not only do you have to put it down somewhere, and there's you can't put it down in the middle, but then you might have to do something with it, and you don't want to do anything with it just yet. So, Toby Harris, fleet London, fleet Edinburgh.
Eddie,
do everything you can to keep Karthik on side, even if it's wishful thinking. All right. And then Cyril, obviously, Army Moscow. I mean, Cyril suddenly tied for the board top, right? So what goes in St. Petersburg? This is a big moment for Cyril.
Army.
All right. Last but not least, Steve, despite all of that, only has 1 disband, but which is it going to be?
I can confidently say that Austria will build Army Budapest. So that one I'm sure of.
Armenia will come off here.
I think it's Armenia, probably. I think it's got to be Armenia. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would think too. All right. Without further ado, let's have a look. And the answers to all of our questions, you guys called Karthik just right here. Army Paris wave. 2 armies from Cyril. Fleet in Edinburgh from Toby Harris. And not Army Armenia off the board, but Fleet Aegean. That is a bit of surprise. What do we make of that, Adam?
I don't know.
I think it's for Smyrna to Eastern, Armenia to Syria, convoy into Naples.
Oh, all right.
Huh. I mean,
get an army back on the boot. That's the only reason I can think of.
Yeah. All right, we'll find out. I wonder, if you're Steve Personeni, I'm sorry, if you were Jan Clouet or Cyril Savant, you're probably thinking, what do I got to do? All right. Although, it's probably a mixed bag for Jan and Turkey. All right, let's move forward here. And spring of 1904, this will be the midpoint of the game. The maximum midpoint of the game. Wow. So Wise immediately drawn to the west. And don't think we saw this one coming at all, did we? Johnny, describe this turn of events.
No, I did not see this coming. This was not what I thought would be the result of Karthik waving, which I at the time thought was very wise. Interesting. So Karthik loses Kiel to a combined Russian-English attack, and now England really is going to lose Norway. So England has to be keeping that in mind. Karthik gets to retreat into Munich, and he's actually going to hold it. So that's really nice for Karthik in this position. That's kind of lucky that it worked out that way. Well, he's probably going to hold it, but it's actually not that simple because we've got Warsaw and Silesia. And Toby attacks Karthik with everything. He's in English Channel. He's in North Atlantic. He's in London at the same time that Karthik goes into the Med to take Tunis. So Toby is thinking the same thoughts we've been thinking and saying, all right, I know how I'm going to win this game then. Interesting. I think it's smart. I think it might work. I mean, Mao isn't guaranteed here, but if Karthik defends Mao, then he's passing up Tunis. And meanwhile, Toby can get into position to put 3 on Mao and pretty well guarantee it. Yeah, it's a good move. I like it. I think it's right.
It's fascinating. The question is, does Cyril thank him by taking Denmark and Norway
and Norway? Yeah.
I think that's the question.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we'll come back to the East, but since we talked about the tactical situation here, it's worth looking at. There's a guess here between Brest and Belgium. Toby has 3 on Belgium, as does Karthik. But there's also the possibility that that Russia flips and Berlin helps do something against Kiel. I mean, there's lots of possibilities here.
Yeah.
And you do wonder if this move was made a little too early. Toby is probably thinking that if I don't move now, then Karthik will be too strong. And there's an argument there too, right? Karthik goes and gets Tunis, puts down 2 more units, might be unstoppable at that point. But yeah, I'm with you guys. There's a Cyril, what a turnaround, right? From that first year. All right, back to the East. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd just like to mention that the one time that Adam and I did this alliance in the same way, I was France. I was doing incredibly well. And on the same turn that I moved into the Med, Adam did this and stabbed me. And it was a okay stab, not amazing, but he did top the board. So I think Toby here tops the board from here.
We'll see. We'll see if Toby guesses right this next turn, right?
Yeah.
All right, take us over to the East.
But in my defense, Johnny, I didn't have Cyril 7 in Russia behind me, so
you did it. That's right. That's a
don't think I would have done it in that situation.
major difference.
All right,
So on the east side of the board, we have Austria advancing into Rome, getting bounced out of Venice, with Italy pulling up into the Adriatic to avoid making this easy for them. I think perhaps the most interesting is the Bulgaria going down into the Aegean with support of the Austrians. So I think Philip clearly is still trying to find a way to work with Jan from this position. I think, Johnny, you probably read the Italian moves kind of right. I mean, he pulled out of Ionian, but it seemed like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the reason to pull out of Aegean so that you could move to Aegean is. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's
bizarre.
Okay. And Cyril's just positioning, right? Going out to Silesia, going down to Ukraine. These are all logical moves. Philip's self-bouncing in Galicia while tapping Romania to make sure that stays empty is, again, I think he's playing just a little bit on the slower side. Maybe he should have thought about bouncing Bohemia, but I think these are pretty sensible moves.
It's a very conservative play at a moment in the game that's very, very fluid, right? So and just look at the sort of ripple effects. So he could have gone to Bohemia, right, which would have kept Munich out. And the ripple effect of that is that Kiel has a place to retreat to. Kiel would have been destroyed otherwise, right?
Popped, yeah.
And so it's a fascinating little butterfly flap in this game. We'll see how it ripples through. But I personally don't like stuff like this at this point in the game, because you're taking 2 units to do something very defensive. Meanwhile, you're fighting a war on the opposite side, and that one of those units could do something much, much better than that.
It's really interesting, right? Because it's almost a philosophical question. Do you win the game by making a great move, or do you win the game by not making a bad move?
Yeah.
Right. And it seems like Philip is trying to avoid making the wrong move here, less than he's necessarily trying. Though, I mean, maybe arguably the move last turn to move into Italy, maybe that will turn out to have been the right move. We'll see.
It's certainly, so Philip, I'm sorry, so Steve now has 2 units on Vienna, and there's a guess between Venice and Trieste here. Although if Serbia comes into play, it's not a guess. But even if Steve were able to get a build here, like, he's got nowhere to put it. He won't have anywhere to put it anyway, right? So no, it's a really difficult moment here for Austria. All right, so we talked about some of the tactical conflict or options over in the West. Didn't go into a whole lot of detail, but we probably don't need to. But this is a pivotal moment in the game, right? We are now past the halfway point. After this year, we'll sort of have the finish line visible in the distance, and players have to start really thinking about what centers they have access to, and how does that compare to what other centers other players have access to. Any comments tactically before we show the orders here?
Well, it looks like Karthik only needs to send 1 unit to Tunis to take it. Of course, Ionian is empty. I think that's a big deal, actually.
That is. That's
a really big deal, because if Italy was still an Ionian and he couldn't be assured of taking it without 2, he's really got to think about whether that's the move he wants to make or not. So I think that really changes the equation. He absolutely will take it here, but he can still send 1 back to Mao. That's huge for him.
That is quite huge. Although probably won't get in. Well, I guess because English Channel may be occupied with either Brest or Belgium, so West could at least keep Mid-Atlantic clear. Is it worth supporting back to Mid-Atlantic and not taking Tunis?
I think you take the dot right now. I don't think Italy Italy has enough use in this game that you're concerned about crippling Italy's position, because that's already happened. So I think you're okay with Italy losing the dot, and you're actually probably not, at least in the short term, in risk of not being able to defend Tunis, because there's no other southern fleets. Austria's not going to be putting 1 down. Turkey's still tied up back in their corner.
Okay, and then the other big focus for us. Oh, sorry, Johnny, did you have something?
Johnny, looked like you. Yeah.
No, I'm just looking at. I don't think you. I think this is really tough if you're England to decide.
Oh, tactically,
because you really, yeah.
Flip a coin, man. Flip a coin. I don't know how else to do it.
But if you think Karthik is taking Tunis, you have to support into the Mid-Atlantic Ocean. It's so good, right? And let him cover up Brest. On the other hand, if you think Karthik's going to support back into the Mid-Atlantic Ocean, you definitely want to convoy into one of Belgium or Brest. I don't know. It's not quite a coin flip. It's a read of Karthik.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I mean, if you support into the Mid-Atlantic and forgo your, I'll call it a 50-50. I don't know if it's a 50-50, but whatever the odds are for taking Belgium and Brest, you want to completely forgo that to support yourself back into Mid-Atlantic, and then Karthik is going to potentially just be able to rebuild in Brest? I don't know, man.
I don't know, because you're getting Kiel too, right? And you can bounce Norway. I don't know. It's tricky.
I don't know.
It's tricky.
It's
I don't
very
know what
much,
to do here.
It's tricky. It's really tricky.
It's very much, well, so between Belgium and Brest, ignoring all the other units on the board, it is a 50-50. It's a question of what Picardy does. Does it support into Belgium, or does it cover Brest? But there are other units on the board, and the Russians are the most interesting ones. You've got Sweden and St. Petersburg, which, as Adam mentioned, could take a swipe at Denmark or Norway, or just guarantee Norway. And then there's Berlin and Silesia, right, which don't clearly have something to do. Berlin could support, say, Munich back up into Kiel and follow with Silesia, as a deal to try to get something there, or just support himself into Munich, which forces hard decisions on Karthik. Yeah, who could just hold Munich, right, and then cover Brest and try to cover Brest and Belgium, or then take the guess over Belgium? So really complex tactical and strategic questions here. Kiel could also go to Denmark trying to anticipate. Like that would be the most incredible thing, right? Like if Toby managed to bounce Cyril out of both and still keep Kiel and cover Brest and and not lose and get one of Brest or Belgium, like that would be Toby Harris's dream scenario. All right, enough chitter chatter from us. Let's have a look at fall 1904 orders, and let's start in the West.
Look at Karthik.
Talk us through it, Mr. Johnny.
Karthik wins guesses everywhere. Toby goes for Belgium. Karthik reads him like a book. Taps Holland, supports into Belgium, supports back into the Mid-Atlantic. Now Toby's attack on Karthik is dead, right? Karthik's building a fleet in Brest. And no, Karthik's even because he didn't take Tunis.
He didn't take Tunis.
Still, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This
is Munich, though. He takes Munich, though. He's +1.
Yeah, but he loses Kiel.
Did he lose Kiel?
Yeah.
I don't think
yes. He lost Kiel. Yeah.
Oh, I see. He lost. Yeah. But he had a build in hand, didn't he? So he's even. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
right. Oh, yes. So he gets to put down that. Yeah. Yeah. So now the attack on Karthik's completely over. So now Toby has to decide what he wants to do instead. He gambled it all on the Belgian guess, but yeah, boy, I don't know. I mean, I guess you don't know what you need to do. Toby does lose Norway, and it looks like it maybe wasn't by agreement because now goes back to Norwegian. I figured that was going to be part of the deal, is that Cyril takes Norway with the army, and that everyone was going to be okay with that.
It had to be, right?
He was going to use it to build in the south. Yeah, but then why? What's he doing in Norwegian if that was the deal?
Yeah,
stay on Mao.
Why? The move that's the most puzzling to me, honestly, is Kiel to Berlin.
Kiel to Berlin.
Why did he order Kiel to Berlin?
Bizarre.
Because that's why Karthik kept Munich, right? Yep. Munich would have fallen. That move is very bizarre to me.
Well, it's evident.
Munich.
Go ahead. Sorry, Johnny.
Well, Munich supports Berlin into Kiel, so maybe somehow.
No, I think it's Berlin into Kiel. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe Karthik convinces Toby that Cyril is on Karthik's side. And Cyril's going to take Norway, and Cyril's going to take Kiel, and there's nothing Toby can do about it. And Toby got double-crossed.
Cyril can't take Kiel. What do you... Cyril... How?
Berlin to Kiel.
He's got Munich support.
But Kiel moving to Berlin doesn't protect that.
No, that's right. That move remains. I think maybe that's what happened here, strategically. Tactically, that move remains inexplicable. I don't. Maybe he thought this was a deal. Maybe Munich was going to support Kiel into Berlin here, and he was going to get out of Karthik's center, and he was going to move now back to Norwegian, and Karthik was going to let him have Belgium.
I don't know, man.
That's a really suspicious deal if that was the deal.
No, I think that's actually plausible. I can see, whether Toby should have believed it or not. I could see Karthik making that offer and selling it, and maybe Toby thought, and maybe Belgium wasn't part of it, right? Maybe that was Toby, being cute and trying to, have his cake and eat it too. I'm not sure.
But look at what Cyril does in the East. This is really fascinating. Tapping Budapest so that Italy gets into Vienna, right? That's really about sowing chaos and making sure other people are not making gains. I mean, that's such a great move. He goes into Galicia. He drops into the Black Sea. I mean, what a great turn for Cyril. If Karthik is won by getting lucky to some extent here and flipping the coin right and making some great guesses and reading the board. Man, Cyril just did everything right this turn.
It's hard for me to understand how England-Russia relations broke down here, because it had to be that Toby was going to concede Norway, and to an army, no less, right? Like that would be... Yeah. It's the right deal for Toby. Toby's made a big move. He can't expect everyone else on the board to, sit back and just let him defeat France and win the game, right? So giving Cyril a bone and, giving him something to do makes total sense. But clearly that's not, Toby didn't view it that way. So
it has to be that this was a part of that Toby and Karthik came to a deal. He's not mad about it. That's just the terms of the arrangement were now to Norwegian. That's the only explanation. And I think if that's the case, then Toby just got completely hoodwinked. Because
And you think that Toby was supposed to get Belgium here or something like that?
he was supposed to get Belgium, and Munich was supposed to support Kiel into Berlin.
It might have done that. I think it did do that. I think it did support Kiel to Berlin, right?
No,
it didn't. It supported the other way.
Berlin to Kiel.
So Karthik got Toby on side.
Yeah, I got you.
Him the moves and then double crossed him.
The deal with
you can't let that happen to you.
Well, the deal, like, let's assume it's hard. Like, the question is whether Belgium was part of the deal or should have been part of the deal. Like, those are two separate questions, but they're both on the table. But right. I would think, like, if you're Toby and you want to make a strategic reversal here and feel like, okay, I got Kiel out of this and that's good, I think you convoy or you go to Denmark, right? Maybe send north to Denmark and pull English channel back. If you really want to reconstitute an EF, maybe now on better terms for yourself, like, that's the thing to do. But to take Belgium doesn't, like, it wouldn't be plausible if it was offered. You shouldn't have believed it if it were offered, and you probably shouldn't be asking for it or even trying to take it if you are making the deal. So I think we're all on the same page about that. Yeah.
Well, and then by that logic, though, the whole move in the first place to the channel and NAO was just ill-advised. Based on that, right? Exactly. And I think this is the point, right? I mean, I think with Russia behind you in that way, making a move that aggressively while you have nothing securing Scandinavia is just, you're trading whatever you own in Scandinavia for something that you may or may not take on a guess against France. And so I think that's really the issue with the timing of that move.
Right. But if you're going to do it in spring, you have to follow through in fall.
Maybe it's possible that Toby felt like he had to do it or else Karthik was just going to run away with the game, right? Like, that's a line of reasoning that people can use to talk themselves into doing something like that. Whether it's right or not, separate question. Let's talk about the East a bit more here. I'm specifically focusing on Jan Clouet, who, now at the end of 1904 is building back up to 4. Has a Russian fleet in the Black Sea to contend with, which, he's probably saying, Cyril, is there a path here for Jan to win this game?
Yes.
And what does he have to do?
Adam, to your theater.
Here,
well, I think number one is convince the rest of the board that Cyril is scary and needs to be stopped, right? I mean, I think that's number one, and that shouldn't be that hard to do. The problem is Karthik is also scary and needs to be stopped, and I think this is the biggest balancing act that Jan is going to be playing. And I think and also knowing that Philip is still in this game, so it's a lot of juggling. I think at this point in the game, I think if you can get Philip to advance you, perhaps get you into Romania or something like that. If Philip is willing to play ball with you, that's probably your best path. I don't think it's through working with Cyril, but maybe that's your only choice if you can't get Philip on side.
Okay, that would mean Army Khan here, right? Going into Bulgaria, and
that's right. That's right.
I'm sorry. One last thing I want to talk about in the previous turn was Cyril's decision not to take Munich support into Kiel. What do you guys think of that?
You mean Berlin into Kiel?
Yeah.
The offer of Karthik. Karthik's offer to support Berlin into Kiel.
Oh, taking Munich is much better for him.
Yeah. You think it was inconceivable that Kiel was going to tap?
Oh yeah, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, taking Munich is so much better.
Cyril thought it was. Yeah, Cyril thought it was the original deal with Toby. Right, he was going to get Norway with the army. He was going to take Munich, no problems, and everybody was copacetic. And he didn't realize that Toby had lost his marbles a little bit.
That's right.
All right, got it. Oh, and what about then finally Sevastopol into black? Did we like that?
Yeah, of course. Of course, you like that. Why would you not like that? What's there not to like?
Well, what my wonder for Cyril, and especially in the C Diplo, very strong balance of power play, like he's now at 8-7, right? It'd probably be worse if he was at 9-7, but he's still at 8-7 in Black Sea. Like, is it too early to be this big and imposing, and is he not that actually big and imposing, and maybe it's just an argument that people are going to use to direct attention away from themselves?
I'm sure Karthik is going to be warning the board about what a threat Cyril is. Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting, and this is a really interesting build as well. I feel like he probably has to put something in St. Pete right here, which is not necessarily, maybe you'd rather be putting it in Warsaw or something, but like I feel like something's got to go down in St. Pete right now. So maybe even the South. Well, I don't know about the South Coast Fleet. Maybe it's an army, but it's tough to be Russia at 8 centers on both. Where your centers are split on both fronts. That's really hard.
Yeah. I think if you're Cyril here, you need to be able to convince everyone that the actual threat on this board is Karthik, which is true. And if you can't convince everyone of that, then you're toast.
And if you're Karthik, you're trying to do the opposite, convince everyone that Cyril is the threat. And then if you're Toby or, Philip is at 6, right? It's a weird 6, but it is still at 6. He's not built. He's rebuilding one here because he pulled a unit off the board. Interesting to pull it off the board rather than, I think there was a retreat available. No, there wasn't.
No.
Because Trieste had a bounce in it. Okay. So Karthik's build is actually not as obvious as you might think, right? Like, because Toby went the other way, maybe Fleet Brest is not automatic, or is it? What do you guys think?
Oh, you still do it. He's in the channel. Get out of the channel.
Okay.
I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. They fought over Belgium, so never mind.
Yeah.
Well, that could have been part of the agreement, but I mean, I feel like you could make an argument for Army Marseille here, but I think it's going to be Fleet Brest.
Okay.
But I think you can make an argument for Army Marseille for sure.
No, you're right. Actually, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Remembering now that there was conflict over Belgium, I would put Fleet Brest here. I think I wouldn't hesitate. All right. Any argument for Fleet Trieste?
No, you don't put Fleet Trieste. Army Trieste.
No. Yeah.
Come on, for the fun.
No.
All right. All right. Army Con was the. We heard
Army St. Pete. I think from Cyril, but I'm not. This is tough. I think it's Army St. Pete though. I think he's got to be. Then again, maybe you need to be figuring out how to throw an olive branch to Toby so that Toby goes against Karthik. So maybe it's not St. Pete, maybe it's Moscow, or maybe right, maybe putting something in St. Petersburg is escalating, and really you don't have a path to win unless Karthik gets some pressure, and Toby's going to be the one to decide: am I pressuring Karthik or am I pressuring Cyril?
Any argument for
point.
Any argument here for Army Sevastopol and focus on the south?
Yes.
There's a reasonable argument for Sev, or I think there's even an argument for Moscow, and then work it out during the diplomacy. I mean, it's not tempo. It's not tempo, but it's flexible, right?
I think Adam just convinced me. I think it's Adam. I think it's Army Sev. You just go to Toby and be like, dude, I don't know what just happened, but the logic from last year is the same as the logic from this year, and you gotta be against Karthik. And like, look, here's my belly. Like, there's nothing I can do,
Yeah, and he's got army. Berlin and Silesia can still help out against Munich, and Norway. Exactly. Army Norway is not threatening at all. So it's really it's fascinating moment for diplomacy in a high stakes game. All right, and then so Army Con was is the agreed upon option here for Jan, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
And I like Sev more and more now that we're talking it through.
I mean, for me,
I don't know that I come up with that in 2 minutes if I'm playing Russia here, though. But Cyril's a lot better at this game than I am. So
yeah. I can tell you what my logic would be in the moment, and that's that Army St. Petersburg is just defensive. It cannot produce anything. Whereas Army Sevastopol, you've just worked out something with Italy. You can fight Austria. You can go get Budapest, Vienna, Trieste. Maybe even more. I think Cyril's big diplomatic difficulty here is Fleet Black Sea. He does not want to be fighting Turkey right now because it's he needs help to break open Turkey. He doesn't need help, or he has enough help to break open Austria. So that would be. I mean, it's good to be in black if you can get away with it, right? The question is, can you get away with it?
Well, if you don't want to be fighting Turkey, then you build Warsaw, not Sev, then. Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's right.
If you want, no way. You build Sev, it's over with your conversations with Turkey. You build Warsaw, then maybe you can say, okay, I get pushed out to Budapest. I move Black Sea to Romania. We do that whole thing, right? If you build Sev, it's over for talking with Turkey. So
no, you're absolutely right. I guess I was thinking it would just go to Romania, but Galicia could be the mover, and Warsaw goes in as well. So. All right, let's see what three-time World DipCon champ has to say about this. And it's Army St. Petersburg. So chooses the "You shall not pass" option. And from Karthik, we have Army Brest. What do we think about that?
5D diplomacy.
Which means I don't know, but Karthik probably does. Is that right? Am I interpreting you correctly?
It's Andrew Goff stuff. It's mind games, right? It's like, you're not going to get into Brest. You're never going to get into Brest. You're never going to get into Picardy. You're never going to get into Belgium. But look, I'm your friend, right? Look at me do the thing, like, be even nicer to you than you would have thought that I could have been. And then England's going to go take Norway, and then Karthik's going to fall under the channel and convoy to Wales or some shit like that. Right?
It is fascinating. Yeah, it is fascinating.
I think it's totally psychological. It's not tactical at all.
It's bold in the sense that Karthik may be recognizing that a naval battle against England isn't going to go anywhere because there's only one fleet on the other side, and it's it's not even positioned to really do anything. So the army isn't really going to do anything for Karthik anyway, but it is going to do exactly, I think, what Johnny said, which is feel like it gives Toby permission to focus eastward. Interesting. All right, we do
highlight that there's an Italian army still in Armenia.
I was going to bring that up.
Adriatic.
I was going to bring that up as a possibility.
No.
But as a joke, I was going to be like, so we definitely keep Armenia, right?
I like it, actually. I mean, it's got more options than Adriatic.
Oh my god. I would be so mad if I was Jan or Cyril right now. Oh my god.
Well, it's even
now he's got to cover Sev.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
terrible.
I mean, so here is an argument for Moscow as keeping your tactical options open.
Yeah.
But these decisions are made on the spur of the moment. So, all right, let's move forward to spring 1905. Pivotal moment in this game now, because we are we're approaching the final turn of this horse race. Not quite on it, but at the end of this year we will, and then the sort of straightaway will be coming into view. The players need to be in. By the end of this year, they have to be in position to make a move. They don't have to make the move this year, but they have to be in position to make the move. Or if they make the move this year, it has to be so good that no one else can stop it. 1905. Here are the orders. Johnny, let's start in the West and tell us what you see.
Yeah, I mean, Karthik worked his magic exactly the way he was hoping it was going to go. Channel to north to Denmark, Kiel to Baltic. Toby setting everything at Cyril. And to be clear, I don't think this is wrong from Toby either. I mean, Toby probably will get Norway and Sweden doing this. Might get Berlin. That's 3. He's on 6, so that's potentially 9. So I don't think Toby's wrong to play it this way. But it's just diplomatically brilliant from Karthik. Get that guy going completely the other way. Holland looks possible here. You're sitting in the Mao, so you can go to Channel if you need to. You're in Tyrrhenian, so Tunis is a walk. It's really good for Karthik. It might also be right for Toby. Both of them, I think, are still in it at this point.
And
you got to wonder whether Toby would have done this if Cyril hadn't built in St. Petersburg, though. It's an interesting question.
Cyril is pretty passive here, isn't he? For some reason, opting to go to Finland here rather than say, bounce Denmark, or both. Interesting, very interesting, setup here now for Karthik, who's had a bit of a yo-yo couple of years, but now, has to be feeling at least much safer. All right, let's head over to the East where there's lots and lots of black arrows.
Yeah, so let me run through the East, and then I have a question about the West, but that I'll throw back at you folks. But so really interesting, they solved the Italian problem by convoying it to Bulgaria, and it looks like everybody's on board. Everybody's on board with that. So, and presumably the idea is to push it forward. Clearly, Jan and Philip, nobody is on the same page as Philip. Nobody wants to work with Philip here because Cyril is supporting the Italians into Vienna. Philip is attacking Cyril. This is just a whole, like, everybody's kind of fighting each other here, which is really great news for England and France, because it pretty much is saying one of them is going to win this game, because nobody on the other side of the board has their act together, right? And I think that is, I think that's probably fair to say at this point in the game. I mean, the bounce in Ionian, nobody could get into Ionian here. That's just a total mess. And really, we said about a year ago, we said Jan was back in this game, having reclaimed his home center. But now, his inability to advance his units at this point is just not enough time, I don't think.
Yeah, having Steve keep that army in Armenia has just been death for him, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's my question about the West is, when I look at this, if we assume the current center ownerships, I can count 4 new dots potentially for England by the end of 1907. Berlin, Norway, Sweden, St. Petersburg, within the realm of possibility, if he can hold everything. That would put Toby at 10 centers. Okay, Karthik is currently at 7 centers. And what additional centers could we count for him? Probably Tunis Tunis or an Italian center. And what beyond that is a little bit less clear to me if it's not one of Toby's centers. So how does this play out without the two of them fighting very soon, assuming Karthik is also in it to win it?
Johnny?
I concur. Yes, I agree. I think Karthik is going to want Holland here. He might take it. And that's the reason why Toby, even though there's a lot of growth in Russia, I'm not sure this is correct for Toby. It might be, but Karthik is going to want things from behind. And at a certain point, you can't let him have it, because those are your centers. Those are centers you need to win. Can Toby take things from Russia and keep Karthik out of his centers?
That is the question.
Maybe, right?
Well, let's say Karthik takes Holland. That puts Karthik at 9 with the Russian one, and it puts Toby at 9, right? And I don't know, I think we're not really clear on what the tie-breaking situation is, but if we assume that maybe they don't know, or that we don't want to go to a tiebreaker, that's still not great for. It's not the right final answer for Toby, right?
I agree. Yeah, it's hard. I think if you're Toby, you needed to not have put yourself in the position that you're in. I don't.
It's hard to imagine. Sorry, go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah. No, you got to walk a tightrope from here.
It's hard to imagine Karthik not asking for Holland in this deal, given that Toby has access to Norway, Sweden. Berlin, could also, make a request for that as well. And then St. Petersburg is gettable. I agree. It might be a little bit difficult, but, there might be a guess he has to win to make sure that he gets it. But okay, so fall of 1905. So focus is on Holland. Is it really between Toby and Karthik now, or do you guys think that someone in the East could finagle something?
I think the East is so, they're playing so much roundabout. I don't think there's enough. There's no coordinated effort to really accomplish anything. I think they're just going one turn to the next is how I'm viewing it, at least. I thought that Philip might have had an edge, but he couldn't get anybody on side with him, right? He got everybody against him, quite the contrary, right? I would have seen him having a shot, but now it's very hard to see that, right? He lost 2 of his home centers to Italy. It's just a mess.
All right, let's see if I assume Vienna is going to come back, but still. Does Steve hold on to Bulgaria or Budapest or Vienna or more? Answer is Adam. Jeez. Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness. So Philip does retake Vienna, but Jan naturally supports him into Greece to get him out of Bulgaria, and that goes. And Cyril retakes Romania. So very not good turn for Philip here. Yeah, I mean, at least there seems to be some degree of coordination at this point, which is around killing Philip. So I guess from the perspective of of somebody else having a shot here, I mean, that helps. But now you've got Philip retreating into Ukraine. If he ends up keeping that unit, that's going to be a total problem for Cyril. It's just not good for any of these Eastern powers right now. It's just really not good.
And over in the West,
it's a go rodeo. No, none of them can win. It's not anymore. Maybe before this fall, if you had made different moves this fall, you could still go to Cyril, but now it's completely over. In the West, interesting. Munich moves to Bohemia here, and Burgundy follows to Munich. I think that's great for Karthik. That's really smart. If you count, Karthik still has Picardy, Belgium, Ruhr, Munich all kind of set up there around Holland and Kiel. Mao is still sitting there, and Karthik has taken Tunis for the build. So Karthik's position is still really, really good. It would really require Cyril and Toby to work together at this point, I think. And that's sure as hell not happening. Meanwhile, Toby's convoying into Norway. It succeeds. It's a good convoy. It's good positionally. He's probably going to get Sweden out of it too. So it's hard to argue with this from Toby. You just got to wonder, if you're Toby, how do I keep Holland? How do I keep Kiel? You know, maybe you build Fleet London and go after him now or something. Assume Karthik waves. I don't know, but Toby's got to be thinking about these things now.
So note that Cyril disbands Norway rather than retreats it, and Cyril only has one disband here. So that Cyril didn't have a pop in the spring, so Cyril's not going to have a rebuild here. So it's a fascinating decision on Cyril's part. Sends a real signal.
No,
to the
he's not going to have a rebuild.
I wonder if maybe he thought he was going to have a rebuild. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to speculate on that.
The Austrian going to Ukraine, maybe he thought he had a rebuild. I don't know.
Karthik's move. Sorry, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say retreats happen before builds, and you can't negotiate during either. So this could be Cyril pulls Norway off the board and gives Toby a big, meaningful look, man to man, and just tries to say, build Fleet Holland. We're done
London.
here. We're good.
London.
I'm happy what it is.
Build Fleet London and go after Holland or protect Holland, something like that.
Yeah.
So Karthik's move to Bohemia here fascinates me. We've talked about Holland. I think it's clear he didn't need to take it that turn because he had Tunis, and he certainly didn't want to, become, a big apparent runaway leader. So it seems KG, like the right time to not take Holland. Probably expects to have it at some point in the future. Do you guys? So instead, he opts to go across the line and get in position to say tap Silesia, right, and make Berlin gettable. Do you guys like this move? Do you worry that it spreads him out too much or something like that, or do you wish that he had taken Holland here and just gone for it?
This is perfect.
Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he needs to go to Bohemia, but I also don't think you need to take Holland here either, right? I mean, I think you're trying to, again, push Toby forward, and you know what you need to win this game. I think he's got to build. You've got to build in hand from Tunis. I'm okay with it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you shouldn't take Holland here. Toby shouldn't let you have Holland here because it was all guesses for Toby, and you don't want. You want to keep playing nice, right? And look at this. There's no units between Tunis and Bohemia. There's nothing. Italy doesn't exist.
Fascinating.
Austria is nowhere near you. There's no fleets. I mean, he owns that whole side of the board. His whole line against the board is that northern line between Picardy and Bohemia. He's not spread thin. He's as condensed as he possibly could be.
It's a fascinating position here that east from Greece. Westward, the only fleets are one French and one Austrian fleet at the end of 1905. That is unusual.
I figure he's got to build a fleet in Marseille here, though, right? Or yes. Brest. He's got to build a fleet here. I mean, maybe it's Marseille, maybe it's Brest, but
Brest says England. I want one of your dots, doesn't it?
No, well, I mean, Brest says I want to drop into Western Med and Mid-Atlantic now rather than having to take 2 turns to get there. I think you build Marseille so you don't send that message to Toby, even though you'd sort of rather do it the other way. But I think you want to get another fleet in the south at this point, just in case Yan starts trying to file his fleets out.
So a fleet. So now, right. So now the game is short enough that you can really start counting moves. Fleet Marseille, Lyon, one move. Tyrrhenian Sea, another move. And your hope is that Tunis has gotten into Ionian, and then Naples is on offer.
You're probably not getting Ionian though. I don't think Yan is going to just let him walk in there.
But so to force something interesting, it's got to be Lyon, and then Tyrrhenian Sea, and then Tyrrhenian Sea supports Tunis into Ionian, and you're hoping Yan it doesn't have two fleets on there, and then you're trying to get Naples. So that's the way that Marseille gets you a dot. There might be other reasons to build Fleet Marseille, like maybe you throw it to Spain and it actually works defensively for you.
I'm not convinced he needs to do all that, because I think Philip is just as likely to convoy Naples back to Albania or something right now. Yeah. So I don't even think it's going to be even necessarily going to be required that he does all that.
So Rome may actually be on offer, something like that.
Or Naples, or like the whole thing. I mean, I don't think Philip is going to care that much given what's going on his side of the board. He just wants to probably punish the people who are trying to kill him.
Accepted he's not going to win at this point. And,
right.
All right. So do we have an opinion on Karthik's build here then? Johnny, do you want to put one forward?
I think it depends on how likely you think Fleet London is. If you think Fleet London is greater than 25%, just put it in Brest. Just be like, sorry, Toby, couldn't take the risk. It's going, don't worry, Mao to West, Brest to Mao. Don't you worry about a thing. But if you think there's any possibility, because otherwise Toby supports in a channel and does now, and you're playing this whole song and dance again. Karthik might still win, but Karthik doesn't want to be doing that. Much prefers to not have to play that game again.
Adam?
Yeah, I think it depends on where the relationship is at with Toby. I probably prefer Fleet Marseille, but I tend to agree with Johnny that you don't want to deal with that.
All right, I think we're in agreement that Army Paris would be the most surprising build.
He'll probably do it.
If you're Toby,
Army Marseille again is not. I don't think Army Marseille is crazy either. I think Army Paris doesn't make sense, but Army Marseille is not insane here. So I do want to get that out for the record.
Okay.
Yep. I agree.
Toby's build. What should it be?
Army Edinburgh.
Johnny?
I haven't figured out how I win this board as Toby yet.
Actually, it shouldn't be Army Edinburgh. It should be a fleet, and it probably needs to be a fleet in Edinburgh, and you probably need to go down into Helgoland and that kind of thing. Or
to get what?
What's
Just
that?
To hold Holland? To get what?
You need to hold Holland and Kiel. You don't win this game, and then you're trying to hope that you have enough time to take Sweden and Berlin.
And then yeah.
And maybe,
you're right. That's what you do. That's what you do.
St. Petersburg. And you also have to hold Liverpool as well, right? Like as long as that fleet in Mid-Atlantic is there.
Yeah.
So maybe it's maybe not this year, but maybe it is, right? Yeah. I think if you build Army, then there's no way that Mid-Atlantic goes unless Karthik really wants to take the risk. But next year, if there's no Army in the island, like it's 100%.
Yeah, you're this is a bad choice for Toby.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. You might build Army Liverpool and just be like, come and take it.
I think I'd probably put Fleet Brest here and trust my diplomacy to keep Toby on side. But Toby's also a little bit tracked here, right? Like Toby's only way to win this game is through those Russian centers, and so he knows he has to just keep Karthik on side diplomatically, not tactically. All right, answers are Army Paris.
Yeah.
Army Paris.
Love it. I love this game for Karthik. This is great.
Edinburgh, Army Paris. Wow. For Karthik to win this game, it is Holland, Kiel, Berlin, right?
I mean, it depends.
He doesn't need anything more.
Right. It depends what else is taken, right? If nothing else is taken, he doesn't need anything.
Yeah, that's true. But if he needs to take dots, the only ones he's going to get, unless Rome Naples become available.
I see Rome or Naples being a possibility. Truly. I mean, I don't think Philip is. My guess is that. I mean, who knows? But I don't think why he would care whether Karthik wins or not.
All right. Well, defensively, as a deterrent to Toby Harris, Army Paris actually works completely fine, right? it's basically saying you're not going to get Brest, you're not going to get Belgium, and nothing else is gettable within 2 years.
Yeah.
And then Toby Harris builds Army Edinburgh, which could go into Holland here, right? Like that's a reasonable thing for him
Probably
to
should.
do.
Probably
and then
should.
try to go get Sweden and Berlin or St. Petersburg.
Yep.
All right, spring of 1906. Wow.
Ooh. Okay.
Huh.
Fun.
Talk us
That's
through,
a conga line right there.
And that
talk us through the West, Johnny.
Karthik knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that Silesia was not support hold. Or no, I guess he was tapping Silesia. So
No, but
Berlin was guaranteed.
he knew that Toby was supporting him into Berlin, and he trusted that,
Right.
which is really interesting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he trusted that completely.
I would be livid at these moves if I was Toby Harris. I mean, I would be so mad at Karthik.
Why?
You're gonna stay in Picardy, Belgium, Ruhr, Munich, and Berlin. He surrounded Toby's units completely. He didn't have to do this.
Why would Toby
Harris
put
could
him
have
in
gone to
Berlin?
Gascony.
Why would Toby put him in Berlin in the first place, though? That doesn't make any sense.
Because Karthik's got a gun to his head, right? And Karthik's saying, "Look, there's only one unit. There's only one space unit I can take that isn't yours. So you're going to put me in it." If you're Toby, you're saying, "Okay, well, if you move everything away, and I'll get Sweden, and maybe I'll get St. Petersburg, and maybe I can take Berlin from you later." But this can't be the deal. If you're Toby, this can't be the deal. Those armies can't be in Belgium, Ruhr, Munich, Berlin, Picardy.
If Toby doesn't support him into Berlin here and instead convoys himself into Holland, okay, none of Karthik's units move. He ends up with an army in Holland. Can he hold that position? He can't, right? Because Munich taps Kiel.
Yeah.
No.
North Sea can support Holland from that position.
The problem.
But Kiel. There's 3 on
Kiel. Baltic supports Kiel.
No.
Right, but with Karthik in Berlin, Karthik now has the upper.
No. I'm just saying on that last turn, go back a turn.
Yeah.
Instead of supporting Karthik to Berlin, you convoy Edinburgh to Holland. Okay, and do the rest of the stuff. Take Sweden, go up to Barents and all of that kind of thing. Can't you now hold Kiel and Holland if you're Toby and you've just taken Sweden and you're potentially in a position to take St. Pete the following year?
Yeah, as long as the Russian army in Berlin doesn't become an enemy army.
If Russia in Berlin becomes an enemy army, then you're right. Yeah.
But at least you've slowed Karthik down a turn, right? And
I just don't see why you do this as Toby. Why you don't get that army? Why you don't get into Holland here?
I will say it's a very conservative set of moves tactically, and the two conservative parts are North bothering to support Norway, right? Like if Norway, the worry is that Norway is going to get hit, and if it does, it's actually fine. It might get piffed, but then you have his units are then in places where you have good access to them. It's a worthy risk to take. In other words, the other part is Baltic. Supporting Denmark to Sweden here rather than going to Bothnia. And I suppose he was more worried about a retreat to Baltic or something like this and didn't.
No, I think you want to be in Baltic in this position though, right? Because you're going to need it there to protect Kiel later. Not
if you want St. Petersburg, right? If you want St. Petersburg, you need a 4th unit up there.
You got a year though.
Yeah, but if you get it now, then you have more units to help you out with Berlin, Kiel, Holland in next year. It's an option. It's a more aggressive option as far as offensively. And anyway, I think we agree that North convoying Eddie. The only reason to keep Eddie on the island, I think, is if you're worried about Liverpool.
Which you should be worried about that. But I think you're not, if you don't hold Holland, you're not going to be able to win this game, right? So I think it's a risk you got to take here.
Honestly, I think Toby should have supported Kiel into Berlin.
That would have been interesting.
And then made this deal with Karthik and then not follow through on it and take Berlin yourself.
Take Berlin yourself and then support back into Norway into Sweden, for example. Support Denmark into Kiel. Got the army in Holland. You still got guesses, but I think your odds of winning are a lot higher if you make that move than if you make this one.
I dig it. Not worry about St. Petersburg. Take Sweden and focus on Holland, Kiel, Berlin.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be. And I bet Cyril would probably not be too mad about that, actually, or not as mad as he probably is here. Interesting. All right, what about the East, Mr. Silverman?
Well, Jan is advancing. Good, I guess. He takes Serbia. Again, this is a lot more dipsy doodling, as you would like to say. Austria's taking Budapest, Russia's taking Vienna. Austria indeed did try to convoy Naples to Albania, but that was bounced by the Italian. Again, I think we're just jockeying around for position around the Balkans, but none of this really matters that much in terms of where the outcome of this game goes, I don't think. Yes. I think it might matter to these folks because they have whatever motivations they have at this point. And I think, from like Jan's perspective, if he can end up on 5 or 6 centers, I think that's a big win for him, given how this game has gone. So I would think that there's some motivations there, but I don't think it's about topping this board at this point because none of these guys can do that.
Well, there is actually for Jan a possibility, which would require Cyril giving him dots, but it's not out of the question. If Jan,
I don't know.
If Jan can,
we're talking about a 9 center top winning this board. Yeah. He takes Serbia and Greece this year. Yeah. Takes the Black Sea. Takes Roman.
Well, if he takes Serbia and Greece here, builds two units, and Cyril just puts him into Romania and Sevastopol, and he sneaks Trieste. That gets him to 9.
Yeah, or Naples or Budapest.
Naples seems like a hard one to get in one more game year.
Well, if Ionian gets, if he gets in fleet into Greece now, gets the other fleet out, and Ionian gets disbanded, maybe.
Exactly. I don't know. It's not 0 for Turkey here.
Yeah. It's bigger than we thought it would be.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. Might as well play for it if there's a shot.
Right. But I do think it requires Cyril throwing him dots, and possibly even Philip. But if they both did it. In any case, here are the moves for fall of 1906. A lot of disappointing red arrows in various places, but clear fisticuffs between England and France here. Johnny, tell us about it.
Yeah, this is interesting. There's evidence of last-minute order changes here, right? We've got Baltic supports Kiel, but Kiel's moving. We've got Berlin supports Munich to Kiel, but Munich doesn't move to Kiel. So deals were made, deals were gone back on. There was a breakdown. I think this is good for Toby, actually, the way that it ended up, right?
I'm sorry. So Karthik, let's just be clear about this, what you just described here, because it's fascinating. Yeah. So Karthik, Berlin orders Munich to Kiel. Munich is not ordered to Kiel. This may have been an invalid order that didn't show up in Backstabber, like Munich to Holland or Munich to Denmark. Or I think those could actually be entered. So maybe Munich. It was like Munich to Munich or something like that. Yeah. If Karthik does that, he gets Kiel here.
Yep.
That's right. Except that Baltic had a support order of Kiel entered, which means that at some point that the moves that Toby had entered were Baltic supports Kiel, in which case Karthik does not get Kiel. So the question is, what was the deal and what was the backstab, right? I don't know. It's interesting.
And this gets to the whole point, Toby. Why did you support Karthik to Berlin in the first place if these are the moves you're going to have to make as a consequence of them, right? I mean, this is the whole problem of why that just didn't make a whole lot of sense. And again, in the moment, it probably seemed right. And I'm not going to, question somebody who's won a world championship, but I think that it probably was not the right thing to do there. But it worked out for him, as you pointed out, right? He defended properly, and Karthik doesn't get anything right here. So it is a bonus, and he'll be building.
Yeah, they each build one. Yeah.
But it is a fascinating moment, right? Like if Karthik does this, he probably wins going away, right? Like. We'd have to study the tactical situation and whether Cyril's not going to help him. I don't think Toby would be able to guarantee Kiel back and hold on to Holland, right? It would be something like that, one or the other. So this is an incredible moment for Karthik to either have a misorder or a last second loss of nerve, or just maybe a mistaken change of heart. In the East, there is some really interesting stuff that happens here. Adam, talk us through it.
Well, Karthik supports Yan into the Ionian Sea while moving to Tyrrhenian, which is bounced by the Austrian. I'm not sure that there's a good reason for Karthik to make that support order, but I don't think it makes a huge difference to him. So it's maybe just getting some goodwill. I see a lot of red supports, I think, due to cuts and whatnot, but the net effect of all of that is, a few dot exchanges, but mostly with Turkey going up by 1, and I think Italy going down to their last center here, being Greece.
That's right. Russia gains 1 out of Vienna, so I think
But
Austria
they've lost a couple, so he's probably still going to be pulling.
Yeah, but Austria is down 1 as well.
Yeah.
If you're Karthik, why are you supporting Turkey into Ionian
Yeah,
Sea?
I mean that's what I was just saying. I don't see why you would do that. I don't think it hurts him or helps him. I don't know why you would do that rather than just support yourself to Tyrrhenian Sea here.
Yeah, and then support yourself into Ionian in the spring, and then try to take.
It seems like a bizarre. Seems a bizarre choice to me, but I don't know.
It's possible that Jan has offered that if Karthik does this, he'll support him into Naples or something.
I mean,
what does Jan care? Jan didn't take Greece, so he's not playing for the win.
Yeah, I wonder about this. I wonder if Jan. Yeah, so Jan, you couldn't have had an expectation of getting to Trieste here. Vienna didn't even support the move, and so could have easily taken Greece here. But tapping Trieste enables Cyril to stay in Vienna, which would not have happened otherwise. Is that worth it for Jan? It's fascinating because Jan did have like a path. All right, we'll leave that one. What's it?
Looks like he's playing to punish Philip to me.
All right, we'll leave that question in the air. Here is the situation after 6 years of gameplay with a maximum of 1 year left. Karthik Kaneth is currently in first place with 9. Toby Harris is in second place with 8. The next closest after that is Cyril with 6, but we have all agreed that he doesn't have a chance to win. Jan, his whatever slim chance he had, probably gone now, right? And Philip doesn't have much growth potential here. Also not going to win this. So it's between Karthik and Toby. They clearly had both just been fighting, right? There was definitely some unpleasantry between them, and so the build here, Karthik. I mean, now it has to be Fleet Brest, right? If nothing else, just to keep Toby out. Well, Toby could build Fleet London and force the channel. So, but I guess you do the Fleet Brest here just to make sure that North has to do that.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, and you don't really. I mean, certainly another army's not going to do you any good, and Fleet Marseille is not going to do you any good. Okay.
My read on the map, and this could be wrong, and we'll know from the disbands, I guess, is that Cyril is probably more annoyed at Toby than he is at Karthik. So I think if that's the case, I don't see, and if that's the case, Cyril is not going to get involved in impinging Karthik. He's going to try to keep St. Petersburg. He'll keep the units to hold on to St. Petersburg, in which case Karthik will cruise to a win in this game. The Bills will tell that, but that's my feeling for how this board has gone.
So for Cyril, that would mean like disbanding Vienna and Black Sea or something like that.
Yeah, or something, basically keeping Livonia, St. Petersburg, Moscow, and probably Bothnia, though he could get rid of Bothnia because, well, I guess he can't get rid of Bothnia.
Yeah, Bothnia is the killer, right?
He would have to keep Bothnia. Yeah, it would involve keeping those 4 units.
Okay. So if he keeps Bothnia, then has Karthik won? Is that?
Well, no. I mean, he can force Bothnia out with Baltic and Sweden, but then he's not protecting Kiel, right? So, I mean, I don't see how,
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
The answer to the question is yes.
So to answer your question, yes.
Yes.
All right. And I think we're agreed Fleet London for Toby, right? Because it's the only thing that could actually do anything. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Here is the answer. We have Fleet London, Fleet Brest.
Cool, Bothnia. Okay.
Bye Bothnia and bye Black. And I mean, keeping Vienna is basically like F you, Philip Weissert, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but even still, even with removing Bothnia, Toby can't get 4 on St. Petersburg without using Baltic or North Sea. right? Because he either has to move Norway to Finland and move Sweden out to Bothnia and then convoy over to Norway or other things. So either way, he's not setting himself up in a position to protect Holland and Kiel.
Yeah, I think Sweden just goes to Finland here with support from Norway, and then North is available for something else. And Baltic.
Yeah, but then he doesn't have Bothnia. He needs 4 to take it.
Yeah, Baltic can tap Livonia though.
Right, but then it's not
Yeah,
supported.
but then he's going to lose Kiel.
Right. I'm just saying in the spring, Baltic can help out with that, but in the fall, it can't.
Yeah.
So Karthik is guaranteed Kiel here. Yeah.
Yes.
And
well, he's not. Yes, he's guaranteed it. Yes.
Yeah. Silesia supports Berlin, so that's safe. And then he's got 3 on Kiel. So Karthik's basically
can be tapped.
What's that? Silesia can be tapped by Cyril. Okay.
Or
so
Philip.
So that's kind of what it's all down to.
I mean, it's possible.
You're right, Galicia.
What is Silesia getting tap matter for taking Kiel?
Baltic supports Kiel to Berlin.
Yeah, it would make Berlin vulnerable.
But Berlin to Kiel, supported by Munich and Ruhr, Silesia goes to Berlin.
Right, so then it's a guess, and Baltic could go to Berlin, right?
I see. So then Berlin bounces if Baltic.
Oh yeah,
Silesia goes to Berlin.
Adams, right?
You
just gotta pull Kiel into Holland, and
All right, spring of 1907.
No, he did it the other way. That's okay, but he takes Kiel.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, fascinating here to go to Helgoland like this.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Put another support onto Kiel or Holland. I mean, you weren't going to get in with the convoy anyway.
Yeah.
The key here, blaring lights, is St. Petersburg and Moscow. So now we're going to assume that Toby can take St. Petersburg. And he's going to lose Holland, so Toby's going to be even. Yeah, so Karthik still has it.
Yeah,
unless Holland can be retaken, or that's pretty much it.
Let's think about this here. So let's suppose that Silesia gets tapped here, because why not? Just bring another unit into play. All right, St. Petersburg is gone for sure. So Toby is at 9. But he's lost Holland, so that keeps him at 8, and Karthik is at 10. So at the moment it's 10-8. So what Toby needs is to not just trade one here with Karthik, but to win one back.
He can't take Holland back, right? Munich supports Berlin, so it doesn't matter what Silesia does. Munich supports Berlin. Munich can't be cut, and then Ruhr and Belgium support Holland, right? This is pretty much
it is over.
Yeah.
Karthik
not even
didn't,
accounting for
unless Karthik screws up.
Or Naples.
Unless Karthik screws up.
Yeah.
Karthik probably won't screw up.
Karthik's probably not going to screw up.
I think Karthik's going to screw up.
All right, Karthik did not screw up. And he does get into Ionian, however, while Jan takes Greece now, finally. And Philip guesses right, actually. There was a guess between Rome and Naples. He guesses right. And there is true dipsy doodle around Vienna, Budapest, Serbia, Romania. That's great. All right. So that means that the game ends with this configuration. Karthik builds another army. Our 2024 European DipCon champion is Karthik Kaneth. Karthik, congratulations.
So wrong.
Yeah.
Guys from California, you can't let him win the European Championship. Come on.
He played a beautiful game. I mean, and I think it goes to show, in these types of games, how France's position can snowball. We all always say that France can be the strongest power, but part of it is just, the opening position snowballing as it did in this game. I think Toby made that play early on, which was too early. I think had he maybe waited a year or two till he had a stronger foothold in the north, it could have been a different story. But, Karthik played it really very good tempo and did what he needed to do here.
Yeah. That having been said, I actually think Karthik played a little bit of a different style of game than we sometimes see Karthik playing. I think this was a diplomatic victory, actually. And Karthik, I mean, not that Karthik's not a good diplomat, but we know him as kind of a tactician, you know, a guy that'll really get into the depths about convoy paradoxes and whatever shit. But this was kind of a Jamal or Dan Lester kind of a game. Karthik was waving builds. He was making nonsense army Brest builds. He was building army Paris when he clearly should have been building fleets, right? That's all psychological stuff. That's diplomatic stuff. Toby came after him one turn, and then he somehow convinced Toby to make complete nonsense moves and totally got the jump on him and completely reversed the diplomatic situation. And the East was in a total state of chaos, and he got Tunis for free for nothing. So I think Karthik it was really impressive from Karthik. A little bit of a different style of win. I really think this sort of goes to show how good Karthik is at playing this game in different ways.
It was remarkable, the army fleet balance that Karthik had in this game, right? I mean, that third fleet wasn't built until 1907, right? And he was sitting with two fleets basically the entire game. I don't know how many times I've seen that, but it's very, very few, right? And I think a lot of factors contributed to that. But the East being a mess and there never being a fleet power in the Med, I mean, there was no fleets in the Med, right? I mean, that to me was just the biggest point that enabled some of this, right? Because he always had that flexibility to put armies into the middle, which, look at this incredibly strong position that he has here.
I love how you said army fleet balance, as if balance was the right word here. It's army fleet imbalance.
Yeah.
All right, let's return to the game in a moment and have a little bit more analysis. But first, we got to hear from the champion himself.
Oh boy!
Let's welcome to the stream, Mr. Karthik Kanath. Karthik, welcome and congratulations.
USA.
Bringing
it home to California, Karthik. I like that.
Yeah.
Bringing
Go to work.
Home.
Go to work.
Exactly.
Karthik, were you the only American there, or did anybody else make the trek?
I was the only American. Tanya was the other North American.
Okay. And did anybody give you grief for being a non-European European champion?
Yeah, I mean, there were like lighthearted jokes here and there, but everyone's a really good sport about it. So,
all right. Well, I'm sure McCallus has taken the chance to remind you that he is also an intercontinental misfit who has won.
Oh, indeed. I mean, he's done it in the DBN server. So, I think what we really agreed upon, though, both McCallus and I, was that WebDip, crew is just meant to be intercontinental champions.
All right, before I fall asleep with talk of WebDip, let's talk about how you did this. So we didn't review any of the preliminary round games because we don't have any of the orders or anything like that. We couldn't even view the results or see the standings. What place were you coming into the top board?
I was 7th. I was the leader after the first round, was 3rd or 4th after the second round. And then in the last round, it was just gangbusters, very, very much people are like, okay, let's go after the leaders, type deal. And then was luckily able to just barely make it on thanks to how things went out on other boards.
And then power selection for the top board was random. Was the standings coming in the tiebreaker?
What do you mean?
For if there was a tie at the end of the top board? It
was going to be backtracking. So it'd be your number of centers in the year prior.
Oh, so Toby had to pass you on the last turn in the last year. He couldn't just match you.
Wow. So you would have won a tie.
Yes, I would have won a tie against Toby. Wow. That went heavily into my planning for a strategy around the last.
That's all right. We're going to take a look at some of the moves in a second.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at some of the moves in a second, and that might help us understand some of Toby's moves in particular.
Right.
But especially, your repeated army builds might make sense because because then the defensive posture actually was a path to winning for you because you had such an advantage. I guess it's from 1905 on once you had taken the lead. Although really you were ahead of Toby. Oh gosh, from from the beginning you were always.
I don't think I ever was losing to Toby in terms of backtracking. It was really only Cyril that I was concerned with, and that's why I played so far back for so long. I wanted Toby to go after Cyril, and if we were to look at when Toby stabbed me, for example, it took a lot of diplomatic effort for me to convince him that him coming after me was the wrong choice, and that Cyril was like, the key leader. And that focused a lot of my diplomacy on the South as well to make sure that Cyril gets supercharged. I was talking to Jan nonstop, trying to make sure that he was focused on Austria, that Austria was focused on him in Italy. I wanted Cyril to be the big bad demon, multiple time, world champion, multiple time European champion. I wanted Cyril to be the main target for Toby.
All right, let's take a look at some moves here. This is how the game started. Let's go to let's fast forward here to some of the interesting stuff. Oh, we'll talk about the bounce in Burgundy for a second because Johnny focused on that and was really unhappy with it. Was that from Germany's perspective? I should
for
say.
you, yeah.
From Germany's perspective, he thought it was very, very pro-French. Was that something that you thought about the move? Were you asking for it? Did Davide ask for it?
Yeah, so I asked for the bounce. I love getting bounced out as France. It puts a target on English because it gives them a free ride into Belgium. It means that my unit's in Marseille, so if anything comes to Piedmont, Marseille can just hold, or it can do another negotiated bounce in Burgundy. There's flexibility there. And Paris makes it into Gascony, right? This is my favorite classical French gunboat opening for so many reasons. And here you see one of them. It gives me ultimate safety and lets me take Spain and Portugal without fear, so long as I can manage the English Channel well. And in the modern meta, I think people have realized a lot, especially for England, that going to the English Channel isn't always worth the huge cost to it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of players, if they know that you're covering Burgundy and that Germany's not going to get in, won't go to the channel because of that.
Correct.
So it has that effect. Okay, so you were asking for it, and you were aware that it was something important to you. This bounce in Holland, how much responsibility? How much credit can you take for that?
I don't take that much credit for it. This was a lot. Came from Toby. Toby basically pitched to me, and when Toby pitched to me, my eyes went goo goo gaga. Right? I was like, "Yeah, Toby, I'll build whatever you want me to build. I'll move whatever you want me to move. Whatever it takes to get that convoy to Holland, that bounce, I will write that order." And I think Toby was really happy with how willing I was to commit in a direction one way or another. And that was something that I impressed upon him from an early, moment. Is I'm willing to commit. If you give me something to commit to, I'm ready to get moving. I think Davide wanted to play a little slower game and play a more balance of power, even keeled. Let's do what's normal and safe and then come back in 1902 and play from there. Whereas I wanted to go fast and Toby was going to match me. So that's why I ended up doing what he did. And that's why Toby ended up offering that, I think.
It's interesting you're saying it that way because we were, Adam commented about this when we got to this point that we're used to cagier top boards in the beginning. That has become, I think, this de facto standard in the DB&I world. And so we were surprised and interested that in both theaters there was aggressive play right out of the gate.
Right.
So it's interesting to hear that you say that you wanted that, and also that you figured out that you could do that in the European game where balance of power is so highly valued.
I think part of it came down to my point is that balance of powers, we're supposed to try and balance everyone else, right? We want to get far out and ahead, and we keep everyone else in check. And when you're on the top board and you're trying to manage win equity, if you can make it a 2-horse race and bump your win equity up to 50%, given the fact that you start off at whatever 100 divided by 7 is 14 point something, you'll take that trade 100% of the time. So that's what I try to sell to him. Let's try to make our win equity as high as possible to the detriment of others. And he was willing to take the offer.
I mean, it's especially nice if you can make your win equity, your win chances 50%. Well, no one else's is higher than 25. So well done on that. So this is the only you did build one fleet after this.
Yeah.
But okay, so you're just fully on board with the Leviathan at this point, and this is a natural build for that. Do you happen to know if Steve Personini's build here is what happened, that he tried to build 3 fleets?
I have no idea if he tried to build 3 fleets or not. I don't remember that. I know that he wanted to build Fleet Rome and Fleet Naples.
Okay.
That could have just been a misorder in terms of order submission on Backstabber at some point.
Okay. Yeah, it's possible it was a transcription error, but we thought it was cool. Johnny thought that this was a very clever message being sent to Austria that there won't be any armies.
Right.
I still do.
All right, so let's flip up here a little bit. Italy, you supporting Italy into Munich was a pivotal moment in the early game because it took any air out of Davide's balloon that might have been left there. Did you propose this? Did Italy ask for it? How did this come about?
I proposed it. So for me, this was, I think, the most important early game move of the entire game. It's sort of what set up my potential chance to win. There were a lot of things accomplished with this one move that I wanted to have happen. First, I wanted a lot of control over the Southern diplomacy, right? I wanted to have an impact and influence over who came out on top in the South, and I wanted to drive wedges as quickly as possible, right? Normally, like, people are okay with Italy doing well because they think that Italy will struggle after getting their fifth build and they don't know where to go from there, right? Putting Italy in Munich and then demanding an army build and then also demanding that Johannian goes to Naples, I think sends clear messages to the rest of the South about where Italy wants to go and where Italy can go, right? And when that isn't me, especially when I have a fleet parked in Mao and fleet parked in Spain's south coast, that causes a lot of worry for Austria and a lot of worry for Turkey, saying, okay, he can't go west. He has to go east. How do we manage this? And that's why I gave the support to Munich right here.
Did you ask him to go up to Tyrolia in the spring with this in mind, or was it once he was there you thought about it?
I told him he could do whatever he wanted with the army in Venice, just so long as he built the army in Venice.
Got it. All right, so let's push forward here. So the EF, we assume the bounces in the North Atlantic were arranged. You guys do the nice tactics here and managed to get Kiel as well, because Baltic, Davide was sort of talked into using Baltic to not attack Denmark. So then kind of like, this is the moment, right? Yes. This is a huge moment in the game. You finally move those fleets southward, and Toby, I assume Toby had decided that he couldn't win if you, like, with the current trajectory, that your position was too good. Is that the reasoning behind this?
I don't know if it was that. Like, I mean, that was definitely played a part in it, but I think it was basically he was trying to choose who his final partner was going to be, because Toby had played a really, really good game up until this point, right in the middle between me and Cyril, right? He had two really strong partners that were in his good graces, but at this point he had to kind of choose one way or another. And I think Cyril did a better job of convincing Toby that his lot was better cast with him. And Toby convinces me to go south here. He's supposed to go to Barents, convoy to Norway, I think. And it basically like a huge move to the east against Cyril if I agreed to send my fleets out of the Mid-Atlantic into North Africa and into Western Mediterranean. I agreed to do so. I am worried that he can drop into English Channel. So instead of sending Paris to Burgundy and supporting myself into Ruhr, I send Belgium to Ruhr and send Paris to Picardy, allowing myself to defend Brest, giving myself good guesses in case, I'm in danger. Honestly, his stab actually probably works really well, if not for the fact that Munich goes to Bohemia. I got really, really lucky here, and that Kiel has a retreat. If Kiel gets piffed, I'm done for. Toby looks like an absolute genius and probably wins this board, but this retreat into Munich gives me life and the ability to negotiate with him from a position of strength rather than weakness going into the fall 19.
Yeah, we talked about this as a... sorry, go ahead, Johnny.
What happens in the fall? I've been waiting this whole time for this explanation. What happens?
Yes.
Just real quick, though, we did talk about... this is a moment for Philip of inefficiency, right? Like, Vienna really should it has to go to Bohemia here. Using it to bounce Galicia is just a real problematic, it's inefficient use of the unit. And this is a butterfly effect, butterfly moment. I don't know if you're dead in the water, but your options definitely increase. All right, so then, Johnny, you want to ask the question here about fall of 1904?
Yeah, so we took up for, I don't know if you were watching, we analyzed this for forever, and I came away thinking that you had made a deal with Toby to de-conflict, and that you had gone back on it. Is that what happened?
So, basically. So I spent so much time this turn trying to convince Toby that, like, his best bet was not attacking me, but rather attacking Cyril. And I didn't fully trust him here. I didn't know whether he was going to go for Belgium or not. He did. He was not supposed to go for Belgium here.
Okay.
And he was allowed to stay in Kiel. That was fine. But also at the same time, Cyril was supposed to take Kiel off of him and then send Silesia to Berlin or whatever. He instead decides to tap Munich and try to make a play for Munich. I asked Kiel to tap Berlin to keep me safe, which Toby does. So basically, this was a little bit of trust but verify for me. This was never going to cause him any harm. If you notice, like none of my moves would allow me to take any centers off of him, but this would give me defense against anything he tried to do that was sneaky, right? And this was not what I agreed to do. I was supposed to pull my units back. I was supposed to take Tunis and then bounce him in Mid-Atlantic Ocean. But then he decided, like, I think at the last moment, he had, like, I think 4 different order sets flying in his head. And he just made some mistakes here and there, which I got lucky on. So I think now originally was supposed to go to Mao, but
I like how you say that none of your orders would have hurt him, even though Munich was supporting Berlin to Kiel.
Well, yes, that one. But I'm talking about like in Belgium and Holland. Nothing was for my. I would not have taken any centers off of myself.
Because you couldn't. But all right, so
no, I could have been supported into like Kiel or something like that. I could have taken it back for myself.
Oh yeah, well yeah, but not without losing Munich in this case.
Well, yes.
Although Munich wasn't really yours, blah blah blah. Munich okay, but it's a huge moment in the game, right? Like not only do you win a great diplomatic battle here, getting Toby to turn around, but you successfully suss out that he's trying to have it both ways, and you also pass up an easy dot in Tunis. So it's a fascinating moment, and it definitely paid dividends.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the reason why I passed up Tunis was the Mid-Atlantic Ocean was so much more important to my defensive posture that I was willing to not take a build or even blow up something in order to ensure that I made it into Mao.
So then from here on, actually, so knowing how much of an advantage you have with the look back tiebreaker mechanism, there's a moment where the two of you do actually have conflict here. It's in fall 1906. You go for Holland. Was that agreed upon that you guys would have the bounce there, a supported bounce?
Yes. So this was all negotiated. The one thing that wasn't negotiated was that let me rephrase this. So I considered stabbing Toby here for Kiel. And as you'll see, there was an order for Berlin to support Munich to Kiel. I cross off the order for Munich to actually go to Kiel and write the order Munich supports Berlin to Kiel or something like that. I do something to make a misorder, right? Because what I wanted to do was keep Cyril happy enough that I'm trying to fight Toby, enough that he doesn't throw to Toby, while also not fighting Toby too hard and fighting Toby only in ways that Toby will approve of to make sure that he doesn't throw to Cyril. Because so long as those two are fighting each other, I'm basically guaranteed to win, right? If one of the two says fuck Karthik, he doesn't deserve to win, that's how I lose. So I was just trying to keep both of them happy, knowing that 1907 was just 1 year away, and that if I could keep everyone happy with me winning and happy with the moves I was making, I could do whatever I wanted in 1907 and kind of get away with it.
Yeah, especially here tactically with you having 3 on Kiel, right? Like you were guaranteed to pick one up, and you had basically a 2-center lead at this point. You're up by 1, but you have the tiebreaker. So So at this point, the game was over. You knew that you just had to not screw up tactically, and you would win.
Exactly. So there were a lot of people that are asking me to do things in the South that were fun and cutesy, in the North that were fun and cutesy. But I was like, I'm playing for pure control. This is my first ever top board win. There's a chance for me to win a continental tournament for the first time. I'm going to play it as by the book as possible. And then, that's basically what we ended up seeing.
All right. So real quick, we discussed the possibility that Jan, if he took Greece here, could put down some units and get Cyril to throw him and maybe get up to, 9, something like that. Was that any concern for you at this point?
That was a huge concern. Like I said, I was very much trying to keep Cyril happy, make sure that Jan didn't get anything thrown to him.
Okay. But you supported Jan into the Ionian Sea here.
Yes, I did. But Cyril didn't have any arguments about that. He never asked me not to. He never. Okay. I just want to keep AT fighting. I want to keep AI fighting. I want to keep Cyril and Jan just kind of I want to keep things going there in a way that because what was supposed to happen here is if Jan didn't have a path to win, I was supposed to be supported into Naples just in case Cyril started throwing to Toby. Basically, I was just trying to make it so that no matter what ended up happening, most scenarios result in me winning.
Got it. Well, you did it, man. And this is the final board state. And that meant that you had a 2-center win. And that makes you the 2024 European DipCon champion. Congratulations, man.
Thank you so much.
We didn't get to see how you did in the preliminary games, but we saw how you did there. And that was a very unique and masterful performance. And I think we were all impressed and enjoyed watching it.
Thank you so much.
Johnny and Adam, I'll give you a chance to say something if you would like to our champion. Johnny, we'll start with you.
Good work. Well deserved. You played a fantastic game.
Thanks.
That was a tough board, like top boards always are. Really well done. Congrats, Karthik.
All right, Karthik, congratulations. We'll see you on a broadcast at some point soon.
Sounds good.
All
Stay
right,
safe and stab well.
Take care. He took our thunder. All right. So I'm going to say good night. Adam, I'll give you one last word on the whole thing that we have just witnessed. If you would like.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to come up with a way to sum that up, but I mean, I think what was most interesting to me was how aggressive the early game was and how different that is from top boards and C Diplo type games that I'm used to working with. So it made things really entertaining and made a really interesting race at the end. So I really enjoyed that. So,
all right, Johnny, final word from you. Oh, did Johnny freeze?
Yeah,
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, well, your image is frozen, but we can hear you. So,
well, I thought Karthik played a great. Sorry, wow, that was strange. Karthik played a great game. He deserved it. Very diplomatic win from him, and he stole our thunder by saying "stay safe and step well." So all we can say is, I hope Siobhan is pleased.
All right, you've said it now too. So Adam, you have to say it as well.
Stay safe, stab well. Thanks for watching.
All right, folks, and for the final time, stay safe, stab well.